delighted to be here this afternoon. Thank you very much to IDEA for the invitation to be part of the Knowledge Share series. This is the first time that Habitat Ireland has been part of this, so bear with me, guys. I hope everything goes to plan. So I thought I would start just by giving a quick overview of Habitat as a starting point. Lots of people know about one aspect of our work, but like any issue, there are many facets, and our work is multifaceted too. Our vision is a world where everyone has a decent place to live, despite the right to an adequate standard of living, which includes housing being recognised as a human right. Currently in our world, there's still 1 in 4 people living without this right. So there's a real need for the work that we're doing. It's a big vision, and on the next slide, you'll see how we hope to achieve this vision. Our approach is about accounting for root causes, recognising that there are influential factors like urbanisation, climate change, and migration that all affect people's access to housing. We work together with people, so we have a people-centred development approach. So communities take active roles in our projects to ensure changes in living situations. All our projects have meaningful impact, and the work that we do involves the whole of the housing ecosystem. So many people kind of think of Habitat and think of that house being built from scratch. Whereas we look at it more holistically. So it's everything from clean water and toilets to property rights and land rights, as well as infrastructure, street lighting, to the availability or affordability of building materials. So that all falls within our scope of our work. And we work together in partnership with communities, but also with those that have influence within communities, those that have funds to help develop some of these projects. So partnership, working together to have a greater reach and a greater impact to ensure that sustainable results can be seen in the long term. So that's just a quick overview, kind of the global aspect to our work. Why do we work in the area of housing? Well, on the next slide, you'll see that we recognise that a home offers more than just shelter. It provides health, stability, and opportunities for the future. So that's kind of the overview of the work. The next slide will show you the countries across the globe where we work. So we work in more than 70 countries. So the countries that are coloured in the map predominantly are the areas that we have projects actively working. I did notice actually after I'd sent this through, there's a few countries that aren't coloured in, like Ukraine, and some that are coloured in, like Portugal, where Portugal doesn't have any active projects at the minute. So let's come down just to the work here in Ireland, where I am based. So Habitat for Humanity has been in Ireland since 1993, where we started in Northern Ireland, and then we began in the Republic in 2002. As a global NGO that's focused on breaking down barriers, it made sense to unify our operations in Ireland. So that happened in 2018. So we're one entity across 2 jurisdictions, ensuring a stronger, more sustainable organisation operating both locally and then globally as well. Here in Ireland, we're addressing local housing poverty through our network of Habitat Restores, and Habitat Restore is our Habitat Ireland social enterprise. So I'll mention social enterprise throughout the presentation, so I suppose it's important to mention it here. It's mission driven and sustainable. It provides a local hub for our work in 7 locations across the country. And our most recent location that we had secured premises in is in Glasnevin in Dublin, where volunteers have been working hard to prepare for opening later this year. And we've just advertised for a number of staff members for that store. So if anyone here knows anyone that might be interested or might suit, do get in touch. Our restores directly tackle poverty, as I said, by providing access to low-cost home improvement materials. We also provide employability training, and then just through the nature of reuse, we're diverting tons of material from landfill. And those are some of the figures kind of to show you the impacts that we're having through our restore. So the number of local people served, the number of individuals that have made their way into employment, and the number of tons of reusable material diverted from landfill. Another way we work here in Ireland on the next slide is through our House to Home programme. This programme supports vulnerable people who have been homeless or who are at risk of repeat homelessness to sustain tenancies by helping them to make their house a home. The programme focuses on tenancy sustainment by providing tailored practical support, filling a gap in statutory provision, as well as providing essential household items such as a fridge, dining table, or chairs for their new home. We work with a range of local support agencies in order to make that happen. So we receive referrals and then we work with those individuals to decide on the action needed to be taken. Volunteers are an important part of the delivery of this programme and many programmes within the organisation as well. In addition to Restore and House to Home, we have 9 other volunteer initiatives that are currently active across the organisation. So lots of opportunities for meaningful action to adhere with Principle 7 of the Code. On the next slide, you will see we're going to get just into the nitty-gritty of the Global Citizenship Education aspect of our work. So Habitat Ireland delivers GCE programmes as part of its strategy, and it's been doing this since 2006. Since then, we've engaged more than 9,500 individuals through our programmes, and our programmes are they follow the principles of good practice with the code, aiming to build knowledge, explore root causes, encourage critical thinking, and create opportunities for informed action. They also cover themes linked directly to our work. So things that we talked about earlier as part of the housing ecosystem, we will talk about through our programmes. So poverty, inequality, social justice, sustainable development, to name a few, all through the lens of housing. The next slide shows just some of the programmes and resources that we have currently active within the organisation. So we have programmes and resources for all ages, reflecting the lifelong learning aspect to global citizenship education. So right from early years up to this most recent project, Community Connections, which is engaging adult and community members as well. So we'll go on to the next slide. So before I get to the community connections in more detail, I want to just share a wee bit about our code journey. So Habitat for Humanity carried out a strategic review of our global citizenship education activities following the end of a DEAR-funded programme in 2001. And it highlighted the importance of IDEA and being part of this network. So we joined in 2022, and then that followed shortly by signing the co-commitment form, submitting our first self-assessment the following February, and the second that August. And through those first 2 submissions, the self-assessment process really highlighted to us the need to further embed GCE under Principle 12 organisationally by developing GCE programmes for all stakeholders that are engaged with our work. So that included our restore staff, volunteers, customers, and donors. We have around 200 regular volunteers who support restores. More than 40% of those would be considered hard to reach, including those with mental health challenges, learning difficulties, or those engaged in the justice system. So we saw an opportunity to build on our GCE experience and good practice within the formal education and youth sector to create a programme that would build knowledge, confidence, and opportunity to amplify voices of public-facing staff and volunteers for a more just and sustainable world. We also talk a lot within the sector about geographical gap in provision of GCE programmes, especially within the north. So this project really hoped to address that. We received feedback feedback also from our current Restore volunteers and staff who welcomed the proposed idea of developing the project. And finally, it was actually through the Code Network that we became aware of a partnership in Africa, who highlighted the potential to use social enterprise in the charity shop sector as a global citizenship education site. And in their feasibility study, they found that there was an appetite for learning more about how the sector supports sustainable development. So I'm delighted to be able to build on this partnership with APA through Catherine, who has spoke at one of the knowledge shares a few weeks back. And we hope to create some resources that would encourage young people to engage more fully with the social enterprise charity shop sector. We applied for Irish Aid funding in 2023 following that outcome of the self-assessment, and we were delighted to be successful. So a huge thank you to Irish Aid for the opportunity to run this project, and we decided that this would be a year-long project and it would be a pilot project, and this would allow us to trial our ideas, see what might work. And on the screen here you'll see just a summary of that project really as well. So there were three main planned outcomes, and these outcomes were, first was around knowledge building, with particular focus on the role a social enterprise plays in progressing the SDGs. We wanted to encourage staff and volunteers to really understand the role that they play individually and collectively toward this. The second was around encouraging and providing ways that staff and volunteers could apply their learning in a meaningful way. And the third was about further capacity building for action through increased connections within Restores themselves, but also across the whole Restore network. So some of our sites would be quite far away from each other. So a volunteer in Newry, for example, may not have the opportunity to meet or engage with a volunteer from Ballymena. And then hopefully working out towards the wider community as well, making connections with that as well. So how did we deliver on these outcomes? So the first strand, under the first strand, we developed two learning programs, one for staff and one for volunteers. And the thinking behind this was that the knowledge in the room should be greater among staff members so we could go a bit deeper more quickly. We're also hoping to create mentors within the staff cohort to encourage sustainability of the project. So the content was slightly different. In development, we adhered obviously to Principle 6 of the code, ensuring that that the items that we developed used accurate, up-to-date, varied sources and included case studies from our partner programs in Kenya, Tanzania, Ukraine, and India as well. We delivered 15 programs in total, more than originally planned. We'd hoped to deliver 8, but almost double that was delivered in the end. We used creative and participatory approaches that placed the learner at the centre to ensure the content was relevant and level appropriate for the groups. And that was really important because we were working with mixed abilities within the groups. And so as we went along, as I'm sure many of us have done in the past, we had to adapt some of the material as required. So for example, one volunteer who's registered as blind registered for one of the programs, and we had to adapt the material accordingly to ensure that they were fully involved and engaged with the program. We delivered within the Restores themselves. This allowed greater access for our participants as they were more familiar with the space. And so that created a safe space from the outset, and people felt more confident to participate more fully. You can see images of some of the programs there on the left of the screen. You'll see at the top there participants in Lisburn engaging in discussion around some of the case studies that we presented. In the middle, you'll see Newry participants examining connections between local and global issues. And this activity actually was taken directly from our Global Education Toolkit. And then below that, then you see participants in Ballymena carrying out a role play activity designed to build confidence in speaking about and sharing their new knowledge with customers and donors, hopefully anticipating that multiplier effect, which we were hoping for. So I thought in spirit of GCE, I would do a short activity that we have used as part of this project delivery. It's called a connection wall. I'm sure you've seen this many times. I think there even was a TV program at one stage that included this activity. But the aim of the game is, as it says, to find the connections in the 16 words that I'll show in the next slide in a moment. And those 16 words should form 4 groups of 4. And so I'll give you a couple of minutes when I show you the wall. And when you find all 4 groups of connections, raise your hand. So I'll pop up the 4. There we go. Okay, I think most of you have got the 4 connections. So there should be 4 groups of connections. Would anybody be willing to give me one of those groups?
Golf.
Okay, go for it.
Golf.
Golf, yep, golf.
Yep.
So what were the 4 that you got for golf?
Fairway, tee, bunker, and pin.
Yep, perfect. Anybody got another one?
Rivers.
Yep.
Yeah, Danube, Seine, Rhine, Elbe.
Yep, perfect. And there's 2 more. These are the easier 2. You guys have done the harder 2. Anybody else?
Colors, yellow, red, green, and blue.
Perfect. And then the last one was the wardrobe, desk, table, chair. So all items that you would find in any of our stores there. So well done. So this was a really easy activity that we would have done delivered as part of our program, just to kind of warm the space, give people an opportunity to kind of speak to other people within their group, because we split them into groups for this, to speak to other people they don't ordinarily speak to necessarily, and just an easy win. So just get discussion going. We then close this activity by sharing a wall of words that are associated or will be associated with the programs that we were delivering out on. So we would finish off by debriefing the activity by saying, and you'll see this on the next slide, just some of maybe the next slide. Yeah, that's it. Some of the topics or words that were going to come up as part of the program. So again, kind of just an easy way to familiarize people with some stuff that were going to come up as part of this. I thought it'd be really important just to share with you kind of who did participate. So on the next slide, I'm just going to give you an overview of the participation group. So we had 28 staff members actually took part in the program, and that was considerably more than we anticipated. So there was a really good uptake and a lot of staff that wanted to be part of it. So we ran an extra program actually just to capture those individuals. Those participants within the volunteering sector are part of this. Over 70% of those were regular Restore volunteers. So we were delighted that we reached, nearly 2/3, of those that took part were the target group that we had initially planned to target. The other 30% were made up of volunteers across other volunteer initiatives. So our House to Home program volunteers, some events volunteers, some school program facilitator volunteers as well. So they made up the other 30%. And of the volunteer cohort, over 20% registered themselves as having a disability. And there was a further 10% that said they prefer not to say. So they could have fallen either within that category or not. So that percentage could be slightly higher. 40% said they were unemployed. Some were looking for work and some were not looking for work. And 27% of those that participated within the volunteer cohort were retirees as well. On the map, you'll see the locations of where those participants came from. You'll notice that it's very much on the kind of the east side of the province. There was a couple of dots outside of this, but the dots that you see kind of represent the locations of our restores, so it makes sense that people that have participated came from the communities in and around our restores. If you move on to the next slide, you will see some of the examples of participant learning as recorded by themselves. We were delighted to see that lots of them shared about gaining knowledge on sustainable development, on the SDGs, and how Restore directly impacts or progresses the SDGs. There was also some that mentioned learning more about how to take action or how to participate more, so how their role impacts indirectly other people in other places. So drawing those connections between local actions and global impact, as well as just having the opportunity or having it recognized that this was an opportunity to change perspectives. So eye-opening and helping to reinforce the reason for volunteering. We also gathered some qualitative data as well as quantitative data as well as the qualitative stuff. And we were pleased to see that there was a good level of improvement in knowledge across the 5 topic areas that we focused on. Confidence also increased, which we were delighted by, with over 85% of the participants saying that they now felt more confident in speaking about how social enterprise like Habitat helps progress the SDGs. So the next slide shares what we did under the outcome 2. It was about engaging staff and volunteers with customers and donors. So sharing that learning that they gained, that confidence that they gained as part of the learning programs in meaningful ways. So this main activity were around creating global information hubs within each restore. These were participant-led, and so they got together, they decided what information really landed with them and that they wanted to share with others. And so each hub, there was one in each restore developed, was slightly different, depending on how the volunteers wanted to present the information, how the volunteers plan to engage customers with the information, and also what materials they decided to use to create these hubs. So they used donated wardrobes. You can see in this one, they've used a donated globe. One even used a donated doll's house, used to encourage engagement across the age groups. So really bringing the message of the issues that they explored to others that come into the stores. It was also an opportunity for participants to take part in an award scheme, which we developed as part of this project. So we had they had to talk about their hubs, why they chose the information that they chose. They had to share some conversations that they'd had with customers and donors about their learning, or questions that they had been asked as part of that. And those awards were given out as part of our large connection event, which was part of the 3rd strand of this project. So if you move on to the next slide. Yeah, sorry. I had popped this in as an example of how creative some of our participants got behind the design of the hubs. One went as far to create this little cartoon character, Happy the Hedgehog, and you'll find Happy in Restore Ballymena as well. So the next slide, so the 3rd strand was all about building capacity for collective action. So as it was pilot project, and we were really starting from scratch. We wanted to really focus on building those connections between individuals so that they had capacity for collective action through connecting people with like-minded others, either within their own restores or within the larger restore network or within their communities. So we delivered this through peer support sessions in each of our restores. So developed teamwork, decision-making skills and communication skills for action. We then delivered out on connection events in each restore, and those help build relationships and connections between the whole volunteer base within each restore. So the Monday volunteer that's only in on Monday mornings got to meet the opportunity to meet the Thursday volunteer who comes in on Thursday afternoon. It was also an opportunity to thank and motivate volunteers to further action. So you'll see in the top left-hand corner, that's the Newton Ards connection event. It was a beautiful evening. There was some supper and nibbles, there was presentations, and there were some GCE activities delivered as part of that as well. We then ran a large community connection event, and that included staff, volunteers, and the wider community. We were delighted to see some of our Code Network members come up for that. Shout out to Fiacra at Collab for coming all the way from Dublin to Belfast. And then we also had persons of influence, so we had some local MPs attend that as well. We were delighted to have Dr. Bianca Fidel at the Centre for Global Development in Northumbria University come across to be our keynote speaker for the evening. Bianca is a current Habitat partner, and she's completed some research in the area of volunteer journeys with the larger Global Habitat network. And her message of the evening was on the power of volunteering to break down barriers, connect communities and deliver positive change. So again, inspiring hope, encouraging thoughts of possibility and action as well. And you can see just that event there in the middle image on your screen. We also, as part of the evening, had attendees complete an activity to make a pledge for action beyond the project. So you'll see some of those on the washing line on the bottom image of the screen. So in conclusion, we're almost finished this pilot project, and already we, as an organisation, have seen this as something positive, given the feedback that we have received to date. And you'll see some of that on the screen. We believe it's something we can really build on. We have 3 more restores opening in the next 3 years across the island. So there's huge potential to deliver out on this project more. We are also looking forward to the final reflections. We have a number of participant focus groups happening this week and next. So we really dig down and kind of what worked, what didn't, what changes, what's next through those. And as well as that, I suppose there's the write-up of all of this for Irish Aid. I'm not looking forward to that bit. If anyone has any top tips, please offer me those and get in touch as soon as possible. But again, it'll give us an opportunity just to see the whole project in the round and look ahead. So thank you.